Hi. So I have had conversations with people over the last couple of days where the subject of denial has come up. And one person was talking about how so many Americans are still in denial. And the other person was talking about why Americans are in so much denial. So I think both of them matter. And then I have a response to both. First of all, yeah, a lot of Americans are still in denial about the authoritarianism that's already here, the totalitarianism that's pretty much getting here, and the fascism, which is clearly what we're on our way to if we don't stop this trajectory. Some people are in denial. However, when it comes to social change is not always dependent upon a majority waking up. It's the majority didn't even think we should split from England when this country declared its independence. The majority didn't wake up one day and say, oh, let's free the slaves. The majority didn't wake up one day and say, oh, let's give women the right to vote, or even let's desegregate the American South. Social change happens because a critical mass gets it. Now, this is important because what it means is that change isn't only on the horizontal, it's on the vertical. It's not so much how many people awaken to the next best idea, it's how many people form a critical mass who understand it at a deep level and are willing to stand on it with conviction. Now, the other category is people who aren't in denial, but seem to be in denial because they're not doing anything. And that's what I want to talk about right now. A lot of people are very clear how bad this is, very clear what's going on here, and very clear what this Trump administration represents in terms of it's not even that it's undemocratic, it's anti-democratic in many ways. Some people, I believe, do see that, might appear to be apathetic, might appear to be in denial, but really, I think, just don't know what to do, and so go into this almost paralysis emotionally and psychologically. And might be saying to ourselves things like, well, maybe it won't affect me, which some level of your brain must know is simply not true. They can do it to anybody. This is a life principle, whether it's a relationship with one friend or colleague or a relationship with a political force field. If they can do it to anybody, don't assume they would never do it to you. That paralysis, which is not really denial, it's just a paralysis. It's born of fear. It's born of, I don't know what to do. That's what I want to talk to you about now. If you look at what's going on only through the physical eyes, if you look at what's going on only with the rationalistic mind, it's bad. And could even be argued that it's gone so far now that they've got it all sewn up. Some very intelligent people feel that way now. But now let's talk about the larger metaphysical picture of how nature operates. When a caterpillar disintegrates, it disintegrates into what's called an imaginal soup. I just can't believe that's what they call it, but they do. Imaginal soup made up of imaginal cells. And out of that emerges ultimately the gorgeous butterfly. The caterpillar has disintegrated. An old way of being and an old America, actually. There's a crumbling here. My friend Sylvia Hayes talks about the term chaotic, that out of this chaos, this is pure chaos theory, out of this chaos emerges an even higher order. So we have to be, death doulas to that which is falling apart, as well as birth doulas to that which is seeking to emerge, and each one of us can be an imaginal cell. If your fear is based on the fact that traditional politics isn't enough to handle this march of authoritarianism and totalitarianism that is upon us, you're right. That's why traditional politics, we needed a radical humanitarianism before now. We didn't do it. We went the corporatist neoliberal way, which was no match for fascism. Why did we need and do we need now this commitment to a radical humanitarianism? I'll tell you why. When you look at the myths, it's so interesting. Right now, myths, fairy tales, scripture, there are stories now when you look at them and you go, oh my God, these are the truths that we most need now in order to deeply understand what's happening, in order to deeply understand how to create for ourselves a kind of portal that's a genuine escape route from approaching fascism. When David, he goes to, he was a shepherd. He wasn't a David in the Bible. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a soldier. He was a shepherd. He was going to visit his brother. He was going to bring them some food. Meanwhile, Goliath and his crowd, they're monstrous. They're big. And they're laughing at the Israelites because the Israelites, they're all together, but they're not near in size or physical power to what Goliath is. And so the giants are just laughing what's going to happen the next morning when they're going to crush the Israelites. And David said, I'll do it. I'll take him on. I can do it. And the Israelite warriors were like, what can you do? He said, I can do it with my slingshot. At that point, King Saul says, that you would do this, that you would be so brave that you would do this. Let me take off my coat of armor and give it to you as a sign of honor and respect so that you will have what you need in order to take this on. And David put it on, and then he took it off. He said, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it my way. In other words, the old way is inadequate. It will not work. That doesn't mean you don't do the traditional things. That doesn't mean you don't support Prop 50 and Newsom and Pritzker and Robinson and all these judges and town halls and protests. Of course, we do all that. But it's like you have the Army and then you need the Air Force. You need the Air Force for the cover. We need an integrative response here. And a lot of what the traditional political types, they're like old allopathic doctors laughing at anybody with any kind of an integrative technique. Well, guess what? That looks old and obsolete paradigm now because it is. It is not only in medicine, but it is in politics as well. What did David do? 3 smooth stones right here, which metaphysically means the third eye, which means conscience. Sociopaths have no conscience. Curtis Yarvin, Elon Musk, Stephen Miller, they have no conscience. And that's where they are vulnerable. Because we do. Fascism has no conscience. Hitler famously said, they call us barbarians. We see the title. We're honored. We're honored that they would call us barbarians. Well, today, barbarians are at the gate. Today, barbarians are already sacking the cities. But this time, the Romans have to stand up. The Romans have to grow up. Whether you see it as the Romans, whether you see it as the ancient Israelites, no matter whether you see it as people today. Today, what I'm focusing on here is the people of the United States who do not want a fascist government, who do not want a dictator, who do not want the dismantling of American democracy. And so there's a lot of brain power that we're not even using yet. There are a lot of regions of the brain and of consciousness. This is the new pioneer. We need to build a kind of submersible so that we can get through these turbulent waters. Not so that we can only endure them, but transform them. What am I saying? If you meditate, meditate. If you pray, it's time to pray now. If you believe in miracles, pray for them now. Pray that there is an intercession from a thought system beyond our own. And that thought system beyond our own is the evolutionary potential, the only survivable evolutionary potential for the human race. Listen, species evolve. And sometimes a species gets to a point where its behavioral characteristics or its physical characteristics are such that it will either evolve or it will go extinct. We have gotten to that point as a human race. Our collective behavioral patterns are maladaptive for our survival. And right now, our democracy is under threat. And we must make an evolutionary shift in order to reach the level of consciousness that will enable us to turn this thing around. You have to do the deep work now. We have to be willing to atone. for what America has done. You know, the barbarians could never have gotten through the gates to Rome if Rome had not already dissembled on so many ways. We have to atone for our own errors. We have to atone for militarism. We have to atone for unnecessary poverty and suffering among so many people in this country and in this world that was at least indirectly due to American policies that we did not address and that too many of us did not complain about while those things were going on. Because, hey, it was okay for us. This is the time to read about American history so that you understand the arc. You understand what's going on. Read about American history and read about the history of fascism. Come on, everybody. We got to grow up now. Don't put blinders on and don't just constrict. We all want to do that at times in life. It's so hard. You just want to get under the bed covers and just cover. No, we can't do that right now. Don't do that right now. And friends, don't let friends do that right now. If there's a lecture, if there's a book to read up about American history. This couldn't have happened if so many Americans hadn't lost the plot. Read about the great leaders in American history. Read about Lincoln. Read about Roosevelt. Read about what other generations have stood before and stood up to. Read about the abolitionists. Read about the suffragists. Read about the early labor organizers. Read about Dr. King. Read about the civil rights movement. Read about the Civil War. You know, in the Eastern religions, they don't see time as linear. They see it as a spiral. You just go through the same stuff at a higher level. So much is just back around again. So what happens now? Those of us who think it's all sewn up. It's sewn up if we acquiesce. It's sewn up if we're just going to put blinders on and think you can just make it through a fascist period and it'll be okay. No, it won't be okay. And if it's okay with you, that it's even already not okay for so many people, then you're not okay. Read, think, meditate, pray. The Dalai Lama said, we won't save the world without a plan, but no plan will work unless we meditate. Whether you use words like meditation or prayer, whether you see these things in spiritual, religious, or secular terms, doesn't matter. We need to align our consciousness with something deep and wise. Just being a grown-up is not enough. Just being a good person is not enough. We've got to be courageous. We've got to be consistent. We've got to be convicted. Conviction is a force multiplier. And don't worry about, well, there aren't other people organizing it. No, it's being organized on almost some other level. Just know that when you read, deep, learn, think, pray, meditate, there are millions of other people doing the same thing. And then it's like everything else in life. When your consciousness lifts, when you meditate, it's like stuff comes from out of the blue. You never know. But some things are possible. Anything is possible now. Some really terrible things are possible. Some really miraculous things are possible. Many years ago, I was on a panel. And one of the gentlemen on the panel was Reverend Forbes, who was at the Riverside Church in New York. And people were talking about the end times in the Bible. And somebody was talking about trials and tribulations. And he leaned over to me and he said, you know, Marianne, the end times are also a time of signs and wonders. Stick with the signs and the wonders, and you'll make it through the trials and the tribulations. We can have a miracle here. That's what abolition was. That's what suffrage was. There was people who did some hard work. But let me tell you something. They did it when confronted with forces that rationally one would never have thought they could defeat. And don't kid yourself. How many of those abolitionists were, how much of it came from early evangelical churches? How many of the suffragists were Quakers, religious Quakers? Civil rights movement, Dr. King, Baptist preacher. He said it's time to inject a new dimension of love into the veins of human civilization. You wouldn't laugh at Dr. King. Don't laugh at those words. Get that. I think nature is saying to a whole lot of people, get that smirk off your face. Humble yourself. Call for something bigger, something higher. This thing is so not over. Okay, talk to you later.